good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond. This is Content Marketing School, and I'm so excited to be here with my friend Bridget, who I've known for quite a while. And I think I've known you at least like 10 years, known you for a long time. And, I'm so excited that you agreed to come on and talk about this topic because not only do you have a successful business with courses that you create and monetize, but you also have a course on how to create a course, which I took with you a couple of years ago. So I'm so delighted to have you here with me today. And for anyone who doesn't know you, please tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Annette. I appreciate being here with you today. I'm Bridget Weide Brooks, and like I said, like we talked about, you've known me for many, many years. I've been a professional resume writer for about 28 years now. Last month, it seems like, and also created courses for professional resume writers. I run a membership site called bearesumewriter.com that helps professional resume writers with all aspects of their businesses, from marketing to working with clients, getting the word out about themselves. And we're going to be talking obviously a lot about those things that they can do, but it's so applicable to folks who work with one-to-one clients of any kind.
Yeah, I agree. It's people like me and like you even, we're always have to be promoting ourselves somehow. And of course, we're posting on social media, but you can't, it's difficult to be posting frequently about, hey, buy my stuff, oh, I got this, buy this, want to sign up for that. So, I think that courses, mini courses, et cetera. And I just want to be clear, because we talked about this before the show started, that we're not going to be asking Bridget about like signature courses that people create, those, long, intensive programs, but more guides, cheat sheets, maybe mini courses, boot camps, something that might be free or, inexpensive. So, can you talk a little bit? Can we start by having you just share a little bit about sort of the differences between, those things and what they might be used for?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you made the distinction about the signature course versus the kind of courses that we're going to be talking about today. Really, what we're looking at for mini courses, like you said, cheat sheets, worksheets, workshops, webinars, that sort of thing. The goal is for marketing yourself, not necessarily for the monetization. It's designed to help with, you've probably heard this term before, that know, like, and trust factor. So these things, while they can be things that you sell, they're not usually, four-figure type of expenses for the folks that are going through them. They might be, $100. They might be $297. They might even be free as a way for the content creator to get that person onto their email list so that they can have further conversations with them and market to them without constantly being in that sell mode that you were just talking about. So it can encompass anything, any kind of content that you are using to, again, engage that prospect or that early stage customer in a way that educates them, informs them, helps them solve a problem that they have without giving them that complete solution that they might get either working one-on-one with you or, like you said, through that signature course.
Yeah, it does. It gets people to get like maybe like for me, I post a lot on LinkedIn, other social media platforms, but if you do something like that, it gives people the opportunity to really take a little bit more of a taste of what you have to offer. And I think one of the difficulties for someone, like me, is say I want to do a webinar because I have a coaching program and I have a, coaching program and it might be like, $600 or something. And I want to get people to enroll in my coaching program. So you have to be careful though. My understanding is you don't want to give too much.
I love a phrase that I think it came from, gosh, I don't know, Jimmy Brown maybe, or Jim Edwards, one of the Jims. And he says, give them the what, but not the how. And I really love that because it provides that useful framework as you're designing whatever tool it is that you are creating, to what is the problem, to identify what is the problem that the person is having, and then talk about what life will be like when they have that solution. But instead of teaching them how to solve that problem, which is of course the focus of your $600, coaching, it's to give them an idea of the transformation, that outcome that they can have as a result of working with you. And so you might give them, I love that idea, the taste, the little pink spoon. I was a huge, Baskin Robbins kid.
Me too.
I go in and I'd be like, okay, I want to try this one. I want to try this one. And really, that's the image that you want to have in your head when you're creating this, is how can I give them a taste of what it would be like to work with me without giving them the whole, 2 scoops of ice cream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what should sort of people be aware of? And I've heard that before as well. You're telling them the what, but you're not teaching them the how. And another analogy that I've heard, my friend Brenda Meller uses this, is talking about when you go to the cheese counter and you say, "Oh, you have a little taste of that." "Oh, okay." They give you a little slice. "Oh, let me have a little taste of that." They give you another slice, but they're not, giving you a pound of that cheese for nothing. So when it comes to say something like say a cheat sheet, because I think cheat sheets are really seem to be the most popular, what I would consider, either freebies or lead generation things. That's what I see most of the coaches and consultants that I know using right now. So what would be, say, some elements that you would want to put into that cheat sheet? I mean, how much does it have to be? Like for me, I have something that's like a 25 content ideas. But I mean, do you need to have like 100? I mean, what are the elements of a cheat sheet so you're not giving away too much, but then you do want people to obviously, you're hire you, well, help them, of course, whether they hire you or not, but also, to possibly work with you.
That's a great question. And it's really about balance. So a lot of it really depends on the topic that you are teaching them with that cheat sheet. So your example, for example, of content marketing ideas, it would depend on what you want them to take as the next step. So if the idea is that you want them to engage with you for your signature course, let's say that's what you're selling, then the cheat sheet, you want to have just enough information that it gives them a tool that's useful, but it doesn't take away from what it is that you're selling. Is that old idea of Abraham Lincoln said, how tall should you be? Just tall enough, I think is what the answer was. So it really depends on what the next step is that you want them to take. Because again, if you gave them 25 content ideas and your course was geared towards helping them develop their own list of topics, 25 might be enough that they're like, I don't need any more. I got everything that I need. So one of the best things that you can do when you're coming up with the lead magnet is look at your target client and what their needs are. We talked about, kind of figuring out where they are right now and where they want to be. And so you want to look at what are the common questions that you get with this particular topic. And that can give you an idea for what you want to create as your cheat sheet. And then drill down a little bit more into that to figure out, if I gave them this much of it, would that be enough to kind of give them that taste? Would they need to know something more before they could make the decision of working with me? Or on the other side of it, like we just talked about, if I give them this much, is it too much? You also don't want to overwhelm them as well.
So let's get into talking about sort of the programs. And I know, we were talking a little bit before we went live. There's kind of the the free webinar. Then there's I went recently to it was a boot camp, and the entry for that was $47 for like 4 days of an hour each day. And it was well worth it for me, to go. I got just enough of what I needed, from that. So I wasn't, I'm not the client for the next, for the next thing. But I think and it was interesting because the person who was doing it, and I want to know your thoughts on this, said that that's what they do now. They do boot camps, these, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day boot camps, maybe once a quarter, because that way they don't have to be selling. So what's your thought about, the free webinar, the boot camp style? What are your thoughts on those different things and what they might be used to accomplish?
Oh, I love talking about this kind of stuff.
I knew you
The
would.
yep. Because I've gone to some of those myself, $47 boot camp or a $97 boot camp. And the goal with those particular types of lead generation tools, as opposed to again, a free cheat sheet or a free course, is those are perfect if you are looking to upsell someone into particularly like a four-figure type of a course or a program.
Hmm.
Because the kind of people who come to a free webinar are not necessarily the kind of people that are going to invest $2,500 $5,000 in a high level program.
Hmm.
And like you found out, sometimes you'll invest that $47 to find out if it's something that you actually want to put that kind of money into. I've definitely done, attended free 2 or 3 day programs where it was 3 or 4 hours worth of content, and then they're pitching a $1,000 program at the end of it. And the folks that were on the call weren't necessarily pre-qualified to be a good target audience for that,
Hmm.
because they're not going to invest $9.99 in that kind of program. So from a creator standpoint, the difference between doing a free webinar and doing that kind of a more intensive boot camp, or there's lots of different kinds of names for it, but
Hmm.
even just putting it together as a program, a $99 program, is you're pre-qualifying the folks for not just spending that amount of money, but also spending that amount of time,
Hmm.
because your investment in that demonstrates that you are a good prospect for what it is that they're selling, as opposed to watching a 30-minute free course, for example. So they have different purposes in what they're doing, but they're really well suited for pre-qualifying folks who might be a good fit for, again, a high level one-to-one service, so high level coaching, or a 6-week cohort course, or that signature program. And that's the reason why people do that.
Yeah, it's interesting too because somebody recently, I heard saying that it was sort of when people pay, they pay attention, and I've heard that, and I know when I worked in nonprofit, I worked for a after I worked at a training and placement facility, I worked for a program. It was a computer training program, and it was for people who were kind of unemployed and didn't have money to invest in education, and they could come, and it was kind of a self-paced. They used to have a lot of those like 20 years ago, self-paced type things. You go in, sit at the computer, and you take the program. And we had a lot of people sign up, not a lot of people come because it was free. And so, I think about that with things that I've done myself. If you do a free webinar, are people going to come? Is it better to do it free? Is it better to maybe charge, I don't know, $20? It's such a hard decision for people. What's your advice?
Okay, I love the idea of, I call it little experiments. So you don't know until you don't know
Hmm.
what is or isn't going to work. So a lot of times folks will start out with the free option, and then you'll find out, just like you said, they get maybe a 50% show rate. And some of it is based on people's schedule. If you have it during the day, sometimes it's difficult for folks who are currently employed, but maybe looking to do stuff, a
Mhm.
side hustle and that sort of thing to attend live. So offering a replay can be useful. But then even if you look at the statistics on that, how many people who got the replay actually sat down and went
Mhm.
through it?
Mhm.
So I am a big believer again in having people put a little bit of skin in the game, even if it's a small amount. Like you said, if they're paying, they're going to pay attention because they've got some skin in the game. So I think that that's can be really useful. Again, it really depends on what you're trying to create. If you're trying to create a large list for future marketing, and you're using whatever tool it is as a lead magnet, you might want to get as many people as possible to sign up because maybe it's not this offer that they're interested in, but it's the next offer. And so you're having a way to talk to them. On the other hand, if you're spending a significant amount of your time and sometimes money in the platform and the promotion, you want to make sure that the folks that are going to be showing up are going to be, again, qualified prospects, are going to be engaged in the process. If you're doing it live and you see people on video and they appear to be, looking at their phone, or, you know, their eyes are off screen the whole time, you're thinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
So having them pay even a token amount can be useful, but particularly like we talked about, when the upsell is going to be a signature program or a high ticket, program, a VIP experience, that sort of thing. The investment that you're asking them to make helps you determine if they're a good fit for what you're selling, and also make sure that they feel it enough that they're going to put the time and effort into to show up. Because I don't know about you, Annette, but when I do programs, especially live programs, it's more fun for me when I
Mhm.
have an engaged, interested audience that's paying attention, they're asking questions. That makes it more fun for me to offer it. And so having those folks who are, having a little bit more of an investment in their money, not just their time, shows that they're going to most of the time going to be showing up as well.
Okay, so for an example, let's say, because I know a lot of my friends and colleagues are, LinkedIn coaches. They specialize in teaching people how to optimize their profile, and then, do LinkedIn engagement and maybe some social selling. And, that's kind of a thing. I know several people that have different programs on that. Some are, more expensive than others, but, none of them are like $200 programs. They're all a bit of an investment. So let's say that, I'm a LinkedIn coach, and I'm putting together a course to teach people how to, get clients on LinkedIn. That's the transformation I'm going to get. I'm going to get somebody like me, and I'm going to say, okay, Annette, you come to me and I'm going to teach you how to get clients on LinkedIn. Can you give us like maybe, you know, two or three things that people should think about before they decide, yes, I'm going to do that, and how to maybe decide what they're going to do?
So there's a couple of different things that that person who is creating that course might need in order to be successful in selling it. So the first one would be an email list, because obviously you want to be able to market this course to folks. And if you're starting from zero and you don't have an email list at all, then you might start out with a simple cheat sheet to get people on your email list.
Mhm.
And with LinkedIn, there's a lot of different ways that you can go. But one of the ones that I've seen quite often is a cheat sheet that gives them like the common dimensions for the key components of the LinkedIn sheet, because that's something that a lot of folks, when they want to optimize their LinkedIn profile, they have to look that up. And so you
Mhm.
can immediately establish your credibility as somebody who knows LinkedIn if you have this, hey, opt in to get this cheat sheet of key dimensions that you'll need to create your LinkedIn profile. So that cover image and the profile photo, and that there's however many characters
Mhm.
today that LinkedIn is allowing for the different sections,
Right, right.
because that
Yes.
changes constantly. And so getting them on the email list is kind of the first thing. So then you have this target population of folks that you can talk to. Then you might say, okay, what's the next step in getting them moving forward towards my course? And so in that case, then you have a choice of tools. So it might be, like we talked about, a free or very low cost introductory course. Again, not your signature program, but just solving one piece of the LinkedIn profile. So in your case, for example, it might be, creating a LinkedIn video for
Mhm.
your profile, that sort of thing. Or it could be, 10 tips for creating a attention getting LinkedIn headline. That's a course, or it could be a short guide. Again, the format of the tool is going to depend on who that audience is
Mhm.
and how they like to consume content. And so then you've got them kind of, engaged, and they start to know, like, and trust you. And so then your next step might be, okay, how do I get them interested in participating in a program? Well, how about I do a free webinar where I invite them to come, and we'll do, like, maybe even a hot seat. Like, you show up and we'll dissect one piece of your LinkedIn profile so I can show you how you can make your LinkedIn profile a client attracting magnet. Just one piece of it at that point that
Mhm.
is excerpted from your greater course. And
Mhm.
so then, of the folks that opt into that, now you've had 3 touch points with them. And so they're most likely a good, source of candidates for that full signature course that you're doing. So that's just one example.
Yeah, it is. It's so much because you know, I would think, and I've heard this from some people, that it's easy to get people to sign up for something because they've gotten to know you a bit. I just want to say hi because we have several people have joined us from Instagram, and I'm new to posting, sharing the live streams on Instagram. One of them actually is my friend Brenda Miller, who, I mentioned. I don't know if she was here when I was talking about her earlier, but it's so how much time, let's say I decide that, okay, here I am, I'm a LinkedIn coach, or I'm a content marketing person, or maybe I'm a business to business coach or something, and I decide, you know what, I'm gonna have my course, and I want to do something that's going to be like, I don't know, maybe $1,000, and it's going to be, I don't know, an 8-week program or something like that. And so I'm going to create, a webinar or something to promote this. Would you recommend that I do like a free webinar? And I have somewhat of an email list, and maybe I have a presence on LinkedIn and Instagram or something like that. So what would you recommend for someone who has, the email list kind of, and they need something? What would you recommend that they might want to start with?
Well, and again, it really depends on the target audience. It depends on the relationship you already have with that target audience. Are the folks on your email list kind of the looky-loos who, consume all of your free content, but you haven't actually converted any of them to buyers? Or are these folks who have purchased either smaller courses that you've offered, or again, we talked about like a paid boot camp,
Mhm.
that sort of thing, because that'll really help determine what you do with them and what you want to, move them forward to. So again, if you've got a list that's a lot of looky-loos, the free webinar is probably going to be something that they show up and consume, and they don't end up buying your $9.97 program. So in that case, I would be looking at doing this webinar as, again, like a paid boot camp or a paid workshop kind of a thing, to see if I can move folks along from that, free content consumer into a higher level, that they're now a buyer, in order to move them into that 997 program. So I really think, again, you always want to go back to who is that target audience. What kind of content do they like to consume? If they like written materials to learn, then that idea of, guides and ebooks and that sort of thing can be useful. But also, if they are the kind of person that they're visual learners, you want to give them a taste of what that 8-week program is going to be by giving them content that is visual. So again, some sort of an online virtual workshop, virtual boot camp, that sort of thing. Because again, you always want to think about what is that next action you wanted them to take, and what's the logical way to get them to do that.
Yeah, so I want to ask you one final question, and then I want to be share your LinkedIn profile and ask you a little bit about that, and any final thoughts you may have. And one of the things that the person that I took the boot camp from, and I was interested in the topic, and also interested to see how do you run a boot camp in case I want to do one myself. So that's always a good thing, if you sample other people's offerings, you can learn how to do it as well as from the content. But one of the things that, because someone asked, well, if you're doing these boot camps and you're spending, 5 days, you're, an hour and a half every day in this boot camp, isn't it taking you a lot more of your time? And they responded, well, not really, because I'm not on these sales calls all day long. I'm not having to be on sales calls because, people
You're
are
doing it
coming
in a
to my,
group.
because I'm doing it in a group, and it's much more, time effective that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was also going to say too, the other thing you can do is record that content. And so then you can repurpose it. You could put it into a course, format to do it as a mini course. So it becomes evergreen content. Then the next time you don't have to teach it live. But again, that's all part about that mini experiments thing. You have to find what works for you. If you find that it's intensive to be doing, a 3-day live, maybe back it off to a 2-hour webinar. But
Mhm.
again, the biggest thing that I would say to folks is you have to experiment with this. You're not going to find the right answer the first time around. And I love, Annette, that you said, attending other people's programs as a way to figure out how to do it yourself is a perfect way to do this. Again, you're like, oh, I've always thought about doing this. Find somebody who's doing it, attend theirs, take their, format and adopt it to make it your own, not their content, but the
Right,
format.
right. No,
But
yeah, no, I'm sorry. Please finish your thought.
no, but I love that idea. Like I said, just do little experiments. You don't have to commit to doing this quarterly for the rest of your life. Try it once. If it works, you might be replacing, a whole day's worth of sales discovery calls with higher engagement, higher conversions with a simple group program.
Yeah, plus, I'm like you. I love having a group. I mean, I love presenting to a live audience or virtually. It's fun. It's fun to do that. So right now, I'm sharing your LinkedIn profile, and so are you open to connecting with people? And how do they find you, other
Yeah.
than LinkedIn?
Absolutely. No, I love connecting with folks on LinkedIn. I'd like to learn more about, what you need and how I might be able to help. Again, if you're a career professional in particular, my website is bearesumewriter.com, and you can find me at bearesumewriter.com. Reach out, connect. Let's see how we can move you forward with using content to help convert it into clients.
Yeah, and I will say it was member of Bridget's group for many, many years, and it was well worth it. So, and I've always told her you should charge more. But anyway, so we've talked about a lot, and I've asked you some questions, and I think it's been a very interesting discussion for me, and from the responses I see from the audience as well. And again, thank you to the people who are joining us on LinkedIn. And also, each week we seem to be getting more people from Instagram. So I'm excited about that. But I'd like you to share your final thoughts of, what you think is important to say that, you haven't shared yet. And because I just maybe didn't ask you.
Yeah. Well, again, we talked about how this idea of free content can be a way to move folks forward to sales. And so that's really the key component that I want folks to remember is that it's not just about creating content for the sake of creating content here. Have a purpose for what it is that you're creating. That's going to help inform what you create and what content you include in that. So that's really important. Know who your target audience is and what they want, and then know what you want to sell to them so you can kind of pull them along that process, providing a lot of value along the way, but ultimately using these guides and mini courses and boot camps and all these different tools to help you get clients.
Well, Bridget, I thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, we've known each other for a long time. And when I know you're really, really busy. And when I contacted you, I was like, I hope she says yes. And you're like, oh, yes, yes, yes. So thank you again. I so appreciate you being here. I appreciate having you as my friend. And everyone else, thanks for being here. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you next week.